The morning of May 19, 1536, breaks cold over the Tower of London. Inside the royal apartments, Anne Boleyn, Queen of England, wakes to her final sunrise. She is 35 years old. In less than 3 hours, she will be dead. Her hands tremble as her ladies help her dress. She chooses a dark grey gown trimmed with ermine, a red kirtle beneath the blood of martyrs, some would later say. Her hair is pinned up carefully, exposing the long, slender neck that Henry VIII once kissed with passion. Now that same neck awaits the blade, and has spent 17 days in these rooms, the same chambers where she stayed before her coronation just 3 years earlier. Then, she was triumphant, now she is condemned. The contrast is not lost on her. She speaks calmly to her ladies, even jokes about her small neck, how it will make the swordsman's job easier, but her eyes betray her terror. Outside, on Tower Green, preparations are complete. A low scaffold stands ready, draped in black cloth. Straw has been scattered across the platform to absorb the blood. And waiting in the shadows is a man dressed entirely in black, the executioner brought specially from Calais, an expert with the French sword. Henry has granted his wife this small mercy: no clumsy English axe, no multiple blows, one clean strike. But how did it come to this? How did the woman who captivated a king, who broke England from Rome, who changed the course of history, end up here, and is watching a jousting tournament at Greenwich Palace when Henry suddenly rises and leaves without a word? She doesn't know it yet, but she will never see him again. Within hours, one of the men accused alongside her, Henry Norris, the king's groom of the stool, is arrested, and herself is summoned before the Privy Council. The charges are monstrous: adultery with 5 men, including her own brother George Boleyn, Lord Rochford, conspiracy to murder the king, treason of the highest order. The penalty is death, and laughs when she first hears the accusations. She actually laughs, it's absurd. She knows she is innocent, surely Henry knows it too. This must be some terrible mistake, some factional plot that will be exposed and corrected. But as the councillors' faces remain stone cold, reality crashed down. This is no mistake. This is an execution dressed as justice. By water, she is taken to the Tower, the same route she travelled for her coronation, but now the crowds are silent. The barge glides through the Traitor's Gate, water lapping against stone, and turns to Sir William Kingston, the Tower Constable, and asks if she is to be housed in a dungeon. No, he tells her the royal apartments have been prepared. The irony cuts deep. Behind this calculated destruction stands Thomas Cromwell, the king's chief minister, a man of terrifying efficiency. Cromwell has watched and block his policies, oppose his reforms, make enemies at court. More critically, she has failed in her primary duty. She has given Henry only one living child, a daughter, Elizabeth. No son, no male heir. Henry's eye has already wandered to Jane Seymour, a pale, quiet lady-in-waiting who represents everything and is not submissive, demure, uncontroversial. The king wants a new wife, but divorce is no longer simple. Henry broke with Rome to marry Anne. He cannot simply cast her aside without looking foolish, weak, illegitimate. So Cromwell builds a different case. If Anne is guilty of adultery and treason, the marriage was false from the start. Henry becomes the victim, the deceived husband, and a guilty queen can be removed permanently. The evidence is extracted through torture and fear. Mark Smeaton, a court musician, is arrested first. He is not nobility, he has no protection. Under interrogation, he confesses to adultery with the Queen. Whether through torture, threats, or promises, he gives Cromwell what he needs: one confession. From there, the web expands. Henry Norris, Francis Weston, William Brereton, and Anne's own brother George all arrested, all accused. Some were likely innocent bystanders caught in political games they barely understood. Others were simply men who had been friendly with the Queen, who had joked with her, danced with her, behaved as courtiers do. In the Tudor court, a glance could become evidence. A private conversation could be treason, laughter could mean conspiracy. This is one of the most shocking events in Tudor history: a Queen of England accused of sleeping with 5 men, including her brother, and plotting her husband's death. The accusations are designed not just to destroy Anne, but to humiliate her so thoroughly that no one would question her removal. Inside the Tower, Anne's mental state deteriorates. She talks compulsively, her words recorded by Kingston, who reports everything to Cromwell. She swings between denial and panic, between confidence in Henry's mercy and raw fear. She asks repeatedly about the men accused with her. She speaks of past conversations, trying to understand how innocent words were twisted into evidence. She is not allowed visitors beyond her assigned ladies, women chosen specifically because they are not her friends. They watch her constantly. Every word she speaks is documented. She is under surveillance in her own apartments, a prisoner dressed as a queen. On May 12th, the accused men are tried first at Westminster Hall. The verdict is predetermined. All are found guilty. Norris, Weston, Brereton, and Smeaton are sentenced to be hanged, drawn, and quartered the traitor's death. George Bullen receives the same sentence. Anne's trial follows 3 days later, May 15th, held in the Tower's Great Hall. 2,000 spectators pack inside. Her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, presides, her own blood sitting in judgment. 26 peers hear the charges: adultery with multiple men, incest with her brother, conspiring the king's death so she could marry one of her lovers. The evidence is circumstantial at best, fabricated at worst. Private conversations are presented as sexual propositions. A joking comment becomes a death threat. The fact that she was pregnant and miscarried earlier in the year is used against her. Whose child was it really? And defends herself with intelligence and composure. She addresses each charge directly, her voice steady. Witnesses note her eloquence, her dignity under pressure, but it doesn't matter. The verdict has been written before the trial began, guilty on all counts. The sentence: death by burning or beheading at the king's pleasure. She receives the news standing. Her face pales, but she doesn't collapse. Instead, she makes a short speech proclaiming her innocence and accepting God's judgment. Then she is led back to her apartments to await Henry's decision on the method of her death. 2 days later, May 17th, the men are executed first. And here's the preparations from her window: the construction of the scaffold, the gathering crowd. She is forced to imagine what is about to happen to her brother, the man she grew up with, who is dying because of his association with her. George Bullen goes to his death maintaining his innocence, but admitting to sins of immorality. His final speech is careful. He cannot explicitly deny the charges without seeming to challenge royal justice, but he makes clear he is not guilty of what he was convicted of. The axe falls. The other 4 men follow. Their heads are displayed on London Bridge as a warning. Their families are ruined, their properties seized. Anne is now truly alone. Her father has abandoned her. Her sister Mary, once close, is silent. Henry has already moved on. He is making wedding arrangements with Jane Seymour. He will marry her 11 days after Anne's execution. But Henry does grant one mercy. Anne will not burn, she will be beheaded. And instead of the English axe, which often requires multiple blows, he is sent for an expert swordsman from Saint-Omer in France. The man is already in the tower, waiting. His sword is specially designed for execution: sharp, balanced, lethal, one stroke. Is this kindness, or is it simply Henry ensuring the spectacle goes smoothly, without the botched horror of a struggling executioner and a screaming victim? The night of May 18th, and cannot sleep. She takes mass multiple times, praying for hours. She writes no letters. Who would she write to? Henry won't read them. Her daughter Elizabeth is not yet 3 years old. She composes her final words carefully. She knows her speech at the scaffold will be her last chance to shape how history remembers her. But she also knows the rules. She cannot proclaim her innocence too loudly without seeming to challenge the king's justice. She cannot curse Henry without endangering her daughter. She must be careful, dignified, loyal even in death. It is a performance she must execute perfectly. As dawn breaks on May 19th, she is ready. She dresses in that grey gown, red kirtle, and English gable hood. She carries herself like a queen, back straight, head high. Her ladies weep openly and comforts them. At 8 in the morning, Kingston arrives. It's time. The walk from the royal apartments to Tower Green is short, just across the inner ward. A small crowd has gathered: officials, members of the council, foreign ambassadors, carefully selected witnesses. This is not a public execution. Henry wants this done quietly, efficiently, and walks steadily, She climbs the scaffold steps without assistance. The platform is perhaps 4 feet high, giving the crowd a clear view. The swordsman stands to the side, his face covered, the sword hidden in straw, and surveys the crowd. Then she speaks. Her voice carries clearly. She prays for the king, calling him a merciful prince. She asks the people to pray for her and judge her kindly. She does not proclaim her innocence directly, but neither does she admit guilt. Her words are carefully chosen, protecting Elizabeth, protecting what little legacy she can preserve. If you want to understand how power worked in Tudor England, this moment shows it clearly. A woman facing death cannot even speak her truth without endangering her child. She removes her headdress, her ladies tie a blindfold over her eyes. She kneels upright, tucking her gown around her legs for modesty. Her hands move nervously, and she begins to pray aloud, "To Jesus Christ I commend my soul. Lord Jesus, receive my soul. O Lord God, have pity on my soul." The executioner moves silently. He has removed his shoes to step quietly on the straw. While Anne prays, facing forward, he circles behind her. His assistant calls out, "Bring me the sword." A deliberate distraction, and turns her head toward the voice. The sword swings, one clean strike, severing the spinal cord at the neck. Death is instantaneous. Anne Boleyn, Queen of England, mother of the future Elizabeth I, is dead before her body understands what has happened. The crowd is silent, blood pools on the black cloth. The executioner lifts her head briefly, as tradition requires, but he does not shout the customary "Behold the head of a traitor." The moment is somber, strange, unsettling. Her ladies rush forward, wrapping the body in white cloth. There is no coffin prepared. Anne Boleyn is placed in an elm arrow chest and buried immediately in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula within the Tower grounds, in an unmarked grave beside her brother. The news spreads through London quickly. Reactions are mixed. Some believe she was guilty. How could the king be wrong? Others whisper that it was murder, that Cromwell engineered the whole thing, that Henry wanted a new wife and destroyed the old one to get it. In Rome, the Pope is satisfied. In Spain, Catherine of Aragon's supporters celebrate. In France, reactions are more cautious. Anne had been an ally, and this kind of judicial murder of a queen sets a dangerous precedent. Henry shows no grief. Within 24 hours, he is dressed in white, the color of mourning, yes, but also celebration. He is betrothed to Jane Seymour the next day and married on May 30th, just 11 days after Anne's execution. Anne's marriage to Henry is annulled posthumously, declared invalid from the start. This makes Elizabeth a bastard, removed from the succession. The little girl will grow up in obscurity for years, her mother's name a curse, her father's attention fleeting and dangerous. But history has a long memory. Elizabeth will survive. She will become queen in 1558, ruling for 45 years, presiding over England's golden age. She will never marry, she will never publicly discuss her mother, but she will wear a ring containing Anne's portrait. Anne Boleyn's execution was meant to erase her from history. Instead, it ensured she would never be forgotten. The woman who changed England, who helped spark the Reformation, who died on a scaffold at 35, remains one of the most discussed figures in British history nearly 500 years later. Hit the like button if you want part 2 covering the rise of Elizabeth I. Her story is tragedy, politics, and power. Reminder that in the Tudor court, everyone was one accusation away from the scaffold, and not even a queen's crown could protect her from a king's will.